Podcast, episode 83, the audio podcast returns. Adam almost makes it to the end, but vanishes. We talk about Mac Pros, Audiobus, and the season begins. All that and loads more on this week's The Audio Podcast. It's the 4th of February 2013. It's episode 83 of the audio podcast, the return of the audio podcast.
Yay!
Let it not be said that the audio podcast team do not know how to enjoy a holiday, with a successful Christmas holiday reaching all the way into February. A true triumph of holiday planning, or something like that. Or perhaps gross plunder planning, perhaps, is a better way of looking at it. So, I'm just going to reset the window here. So we're back anyway. We'll be back on Mondays, which continue to be the best of a bad bunch of options for when we could do a show. So we'll continue doing that. I'm Scott Hewitt. Sam Freeman is not here, but instead he has been replaced by the ever-capable Adam Yauch.
Hello, everybody. How are you doing?
I hope they're well. We presume they're well. Or else, if they're not well, then they can expel their horrors to the,
And I'll tell you how
the TV.
I could tell you actually how they could get in touch with us.
Well, they could, yes.
They could actually come onto Twitter and tweet directly at the audio podcast. Are there any other direct ways of communication? I know there's the website, but
you can send us an email at show@theaudiopodcast.co.uk. And you can also find us on Google Plus and Facebook as well. So we're on all those places if you want to.
And don't forget we run live off the show notes on the Audio Podcast website. That's theaudiopodcast.co.uk/show/83 for today's show, which is called
The Audio Podcast Returns.
The Return
of the Audio Podcast.
It's quite a big title, that, because I don't think you've had that title before, but it has been quite a break, because we basically went through January and now we're into February.
Yeah, has been quite a break.
We'll get back on with the audio podcast news now, I think.
I think so. I suspect this week's show may be a little shorter than usual. We've just had a traumatic day, at least that I have. So let's get straight into it. Behringer have joined the remote monitor mixing bandwagon with the release of the XIQ app for iOS devices, which allows you to control their X32 mixer. And it's particularly designed to allow you to control their, monitor mixers. So the idea that a musician on stage can sort out their own monitor mix how they want it in their ears. Sort of stuff like that.
Good stuff. Is there a particular set of iOS products that it works with and doesn't work with, or?
I think it's everything that's current, basically. So
okay,
iOS does a good job, doesn't it?
Well, I imagine it could even work with the old the first generation iPad as well, because those are still current, really.
Yeah.
Apple would like us to buy new ones, but you don't really have to.
I have a first generation iPad. It's fine. It works perfectly fine still. Does that? I always think about this, because the idea of being able to remotely control this as the engineer is really, really exciting. We've seen lots of releases in that kind of space. But I do wonder, when you start handing over monitor mix control to other people, does that start to affect what they're trying to do, or does it become detrimental to this kind of sound that you're trying to make? I always wondered that.
If they're controlling only their own monitor mix, it's very much the same model as, say, Unix administrator and Unix user level, and we're the users. We just get the limited access account when we're using that system, but there's one guy or gal or series of people who administer the whole thing. So I imagine that's probably the model that should be followed if you're going to do that.
Oh well, definitely so. I guess more what I was thinking is that if you're using in-ear monitoring, it's not such a concern. But if you're using kind of on-stage monitors, and you're letting the people vary their own monitor mix for them, you're potentially exposing yourselves to all sorts of risks, in terms of introducing feedback into
that would be there anyway, really, wouldn't it? that risk. I mean, it's taken out of your hands, but it's still kind of there. You know what I would do? I'd make a device like on a camera that has that thing over the lens.
Oh yeah.
Do that and it would actually probably work better. Put that on your monitor speaker and just direct it straight towards the person, like that. Anyway, cool. So that is the XIQ app for controlling Behringer's X32 mixing desk, and that is available for iOS devices. Oh yes, yes. Right. Okay, so the next one, that's fun. So I don't know. I know we've mentioned Audiobus in the past. Audiobus being the inter-application audio connection app for iOS. I've been following its development for months and months, and Michael Tyson, who's one of the developers, has been really like enthusiastic about the whole thing, and looks like it's really taken root. I think it's going to be one of those must-have apps to build everything together. But very recently, actually, Steinberg have released. Is it Steinberg who's released it?
Yeah.
Have released Cubasis, which is a reboot of the Cubasis name, because Cubasis used to be the low-end, free bundled sequencer that you got with the new audio interface or something like that. It was a taster for full-on Cubase, and I guess they've decided to reuse the name and whack it on their iOS app. So, what are the details about the?
Well, basically, Audiobus support is now in. Is now in there. So
excellent.
This is essentially the nearest we've got to a full DAW on an iPad. Now it's primarily focused towards recording rather than production work. So it does a lot of recording. It does has recording functionality built into there. And I think it's cool. It's incredible what they're managing to push these kind of iOS devices to. And and we're probably going to talk a bit more about OS X and iOS convergence that's happening as well. So it's incredible where this is going, and it's encouraging that we're seeing these kind of support things appear. But I was just thinking, is a DAW good as an interface? I'm saying, I just don't see myself sitting there thinking I want to use my iPad to do this. I kind of feel a real computer is what I want, really, but
I know what you mean. I know what you mean, because I feel the same way. I'm very attached to my mouse keyboard setup when it comes to using a DAW, and having experienced other apps on a touch screen, I can't see how you can get the same level of detail achievable on something, even with a big screen like an iPad. Because it's just too. I get very frustrated with touch screens very quickly when I'm trying to do something quickly or that's detailed, and I can't do it. So I'd probably find it very frustrating. But I think that's my opinion, and I'm very baked in. And me and you are baked in. We can use a touch screen, we're fine with it, but we're very used to our creature comforts when we're doing really specialist tasks.
Yeah.
I think maybe a new generation of music creators will love the touch screen, and hopefully there'll be some new touch screen user interface ideas that come along with that.
Oh, definitely so, and I agree that the interface possibilities are exciting. I think the question mark I have is really just whether the iPad is the kind of platform that you'd want to commit your recording to and your recording activities to, if that makes sense. As an illustration, I was thinking about this. If my laptop, if I did some recording and the laptop died, then I could take it apart, pull out the hard drive, and recover the data. Like that is something that I could do. There's no iPad equivalent of that.
No. Well, it's not as simple. You might be able to, at some point, it'll just upload to the cloud or something like that, and it'll always be there.
Yeah.
But then.
But I mean, in point of failure, like if it failed, like with that.
It is less likely to fail, because it doesn't have the moving parts. That's one thing, maybe. It's not a really compelling argument there.
No, exactly. And then I think there's the peripheral questions and things like that as well. But they're all things that could be resolved. I'm saying we could see, you know, professional standing sound cards appearing and connected into iPads. It could, you know, it could happen.
Well, I mean, I would view something like Cubasis and what's that other the other iOS DAW that came out in the last 6 months that's really good. That was like, I think that one's the one that was really deemed as being the first proper
breakthrough one. Yeah. Let me check its name. I've got it here.
You check that, and I'll just continue on. I think that I see them as being useful tools for creation whilst you're out, and then it's all about integrating that or extracting that and putting it into a more capable system when you get home. But I also think that, you know, we've got our baked-in opinions, and I think that, you know, just disregard our opinion, because you can make music any way you want to make music, and technology should help you. And if you can make good tunes on an iPad with the resources available, then you bloody hell, you go and do it. You know, don't listen to old fussy pants like us, because you know, it's just I wouldn't take our opinion as being the way forward, is what I'm saying. I don't trust my own opinion.
I wonder if what you were thinking of was Aura, A-U-R-A.
Aurea, yes, yeah. It was Aurea. Cool. So anyway, so Cubasis, Audiobus. If you follow Audiobus on Twitter, they regularly update and say this app has now got Audiobus support. This app's now got Audiobus support. They link in with people. Yeah. They'll post videos of people who have made music with the Audiobus system, linking all the apps together in their device and that kind of thing. So I would suggest following, I think it's Audiobus app.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah,
something like that.
You can find you can link off to from there's links off from our website from the audiopodcast.co.uk across into there, so you can find them from there. Shall we move on to the next one?
No, Scott, I'm very interested in the next one, because I'm putting my hand up and admitting that I haven't read the show notes. The title of the next one is called "Will Streaming Work?" What's the context, Scott?
Well, what I spotted was there's a New York Times article, which pointed me in the direction of a girl called Zoe Keating, who is a musician. She does kind of experimental cello playing.
Not related to Ronan.
I presume not. No. And what she's done is she's actually produced a spreadsheets of her earnings as an artist. Okay.
I see.
And it's quite interesting. So the bit the New York Times picked on, which is related to the article, was her discussing her streaming revenue, basically. Okay. So the amount of money she's making from streaming. I thought it was quite interesting that on the side of it also listed her other revenue. Further on, it also listed her other earnings revenue as well. And it was interesting to see that she, even as an established but not nationally acclaimed, I think is probably the best way to put it, she still makes a significant amount of income from touring revenue and live revenue. Like, I was surprised that it was that sort of larger number. But the point that she was making is that her, the thousands of plays by Spotify and people like that, she was essentially looking at less than a cent per play from this kind of streaming sources. And just the fact that it's basically, while you could look at it and say it's money that you would never get and therefore it's worth getting, maybe, but it's nonetheless not a substantial amount of money in any way whatsoever. And
I think I think that's an interesting point. The thing I would like to raise is just not something that I've really heard much argument about, but then I haven't really followed this argument at all. Really, I kind of know that Spotify doesn't pay very much on streaming, but that's the leaving point for me. That's like, well, previously the only method of getting paid for someone playing your track is if it gets played on the radio. If you buy a CD and you listen to it, at home, you're not paying, as a listener, you're not paying that artist per play. The Spotify model is a completely different thing. there's no precedent for it. You know, radio play is controlled by the people who run the radio, and when you're at home, you're used to listening to tunes, and you've already bought it, or maybe you've downloaded it illegally, whatever. You're not paying per play. Yeah. So I can see why people have latched onto this streaming problem. You only get so much, like less than a cent per play or something like that. But I mean, what do they expect? Like, what, 10 cents a play? That's ridiculous, because you can listen to a tune millions of times, more than millions of times. You can sell 1 million records, and each person might listen to it 100 times, and that's conservative, you know?
Oh well, definitely. But the thing is, if you think that the model was your pay, you know, even if you consider it against the iTunes version, which is 99 cents for a download, if you're getting 1/4 cent per play, that's still, you know, that's a lot of streams before you've even made it to the point where one person would have bought it under the iTunes version. And I think this is the kind of problem, is that it's gone from people paid $3.99 for a CD single to 99 cents for the track off the CD single, and now with streaming revenues kind of dropping even further, it's causing problems. There's an interesting side to it, which is that neither Spotify or Pandora, who are the biggest two, neither of them are actually profitable in any real way. Neither of those two businesses are actually making any money. So they both have massive venture capital investments and valuations, but neither of them are actually profitable. They're not making money. They don't make money in any way. So there is a real question here, which is just that streaming is neither, it'd be one thing if what the problem here was the artist-business relationship needed reformed, but it turns out that the businesses aren't actually making any money, so they don't have any money to pay to the artists anyway.
Well, so, yeah. But then, even then, it's like, how could you say... The problem, I suppose, with the Spotify streaming system is it's very much biased towards really, really popular music. So there's almost no point in putting your music up on Spotify if 10 people are going to listen to it a week. Mm. You'll be better off just letting it stream for free and somewhere where you can buy it easily. Or set a price, something like Bandcamp. I'm a proponent of Bandcamp. I'll always say that Bandcamp is great, and I really enjoy the options available there. But maybe the streaming system is not economically viable, or maybe they haven't. Spotify and Pandora haven't come up with the right mixture of components to make it profitable.
Yeah. I wonder if the issue here is that they haven't. I'm trying to think how to phrase this. It strikes me as the classic internet free kind of free first kind of feel to it, in that it's something you can do technology wise, and hence it's done, and it is convenient. Like it is cool. I'm saying being able to listen to anything you want to on Spotify, and the only inconvenience of it being an occasional advert every now and again is incredibly nice. Like that's all very cool, but at the same point, it isn't revenuing for anybody, and it probably isn't actually really sustainable in any actual way.
Well, if you say that,
as a consequence, we're gonna, maybe it's just gonna be the streaming bubble. In a few years' time, all the streaming companies will be gone, and we're just kind of think back to when oh, do you remember when you used to be able to stream music? Because I personally, I guess you gotta be careful about you saying this, but I always found that YouTube tended to have most songs on
it for free.
For free, and most of their songs are available through the official channels. So you see an advert at the start of it, perhaps, but then you get the song like that, and I think that's a version that works far more successful. I don't really understand what the streaming companies can offer in competition to that.
I think the problem I was just going to make a point as well before that. Don't forget that Amazon, when they first started, they weren't profitable for years, as far as I can remember, and then all of a sudden they became profitable. But I was using Amazon 10, 12 years ago, and I was hearing, well, they don't make a profit, and is it doomed? And look at them now; they're one of the pillars of the internet, with all their storage and alongside what they're originally known for.
It is true. I'm saying I think Amazon's potentially a bad example because I haven't checked the most recent set of figures, but Amazon aren't particularly profitable even now.
No, but they might not be greatly profitable, but they're still around, and they're a huge presence. So
they're a huge
not
presence.
Like they're going to just collapse like next week or something.
Oh no, I think the cynical view of it is that Amazon are playing the classic last man standing strategy, and they're doing very well at it. If you consider in the UK space the people who have gone out of business recently, they are slowly. It is slowly becoming Apple and. It's slowly becoming iTunes and Amazon. That is essentially the level we are. We're getting to that kind of position now here. If you think about it, we're running out of physical retailers. We're running out of competitive online retailers as well. We're going to be down to the two of them in the near future, I think.
I hope that doesn't happen. The other thing I was going to mention is that with Spotify, there are limits or limited. Like you have to log in with a Facebook account now. I say now. That was ages ago. I used to use Spotify, not a huge amount, but I used to basically listen to the same things over and over again. I've ended up buying the CDs or getting the downloads for them in the meantime. But when Spotify changed the free model and then made you need to log in with your Facebook account, I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I bet Spotify get a lot of money from Facebook for the data.
I wonder if Facebook even are like purchased in, actually.
There must be, because I know that their relationship is more than being just we're Spotify and we're using the Facebook login API to get people into our system. There's more to it than that, and that's what they said when they did the switch over to Facebook.
Well, when they first did that, and we talked about it in depth, there was kind of mocked up screenshots of the fact you'd be able to like listen to music with your friends and things like this. It's like.
Has that actually happened?
No, I don't recall ever seeing it in the wild. I just remember seeing these kind of mocked up screenshots and people being like, "Oh, that might be cool," but
what they actually found was that every time you listened to a track, it posted it on your Facebook profile, and everyone got annoyed with you because you were just cluttering up their timeline.
And then people discovered that you had a secret country and western or something.
Yeah, the thing is that you wouldn't mind that because you listen to loads of dodgy music, but you don't care. You love that, and you will tell everybody that you listen to that dodgy music. So it doesn't work on you.
No, it's fine. Let's move on.
Let's move on because that was quite an extended discussion.
It was really. Native Instruments have the completely irresistible special offer running until March 26. For a limited time, get Complete 8 with 27 instruments and effects, or Complete 8 Ultimate with 50 stunning instruments and effects at a truly irresistible discount. There you go.
What's the discount?
It is substantial. It is a good discount. I don't remember off the top of my head, to be honest.
Okay, I'll go and check that because maybe I went for it. I think. And in the other section, I think we should have a quick talk about Christmas music presents, Christmas presents. But we'll do that when we get to the other section. Okay, here we go. So I think it'll be this, which is this is in dollars and euros. So where Complete 8 Ultimate would be $1,099 or 999 euros. It's now $699 or euros. And Complete 8, not Ultimate, that's $559, 499 euros is now 399. So that's more than 20%, 20% or more.
Yes, that's pretty cool. I knew there were good discounts. Anyway, so that's running to March 26. You can go get it there. You can obviously from the show notes, it links there as well.
Yeah.
So finally, our final item in news is about the Mac Pro, which stops shipping. Well, as of March the 1st, you will no longer be able to get a Mac Pro inside the EU. In reality, the date is actually nearer than that. 18th of February is the last date that you can place an order for a Mac Pro from Apple in the EU. The reason for it isn't a discontinuation. It will be available in other kind of geographical markets, regional markets, but there is apparently a violation of EU directive which comes into effect, which is based on the chassis and has to do with the power supply fans. which means that they can no longer legally sell it, and hence they haven't done a redevelopment of the, they haven't designed a solution to it, so hence they're just taking it off the market, and it will no longer be available for sale.
Now, in the Ars Technica report on this, which I picked up, they made a very good point, which is that style of case, I mean, for one thing, the Mac Pro has been available for years now, and that EU directive has been in the pipeline for, it must have been, a few years.
Oh no, it's more than been in the pipeline. The date for the 1st of March was set in 2010 as the date that this would come into effect.
But you see, then the other thing is that case design is actually from the Power Mac G5, which was released in 2003. I know the inside has been remodeled significantly when they jumped to Mac Pro, but basically the design has not changed for so long. And I don't know, I think, is this a dropping of the ball? Because we're all kind of anticipating, Tim Cook said there would be a new something to replace the Mac Pro, or a new version of Mac Pro this year. It's so close. Why isn't there? Why wasn't it released last year, or something along those lines? Well, I don't know.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because while the last upgrade late last year was a complete non-event in terms of kind of Mac Pro, it was essentially, here's some out-of-date processors which were put in, put in the boxes. The previous actual a more significant update was within the time frame of this being an issue. So at that point, they could have. So 2 revisions ago, they could have started to work for compatibility against this. So that makes me think that that makes me absolutely certain that the plan was that the Mac Pro would be gone, basically. Now, whether that means that there would be an equivalent Mac Pro in a different chassis design turning up, I don't know. But it seems to me that Apple aren't committed to that. But the other thing I would actually say is I really don't. I'm just not convinced we're ever going to see a replacement, to be honest. I was in a big Apple store just this past weekend, and they have a single Mac Pro sat in the corner of the room.
Yeah.
There's no attempt to sell it. There's no attempt whatsoever. Now I understand that obviously, as they probably are winding down stock inventory as hard as they can right now because of this date coming up, they're probably not particularly pushing them in the EU at all anymore. But I still think it just feels a little bit. It feels like it's been mismanaged here. Whether there was meant to have been a replacement and they failed to hit that, or whether it's, I don't know where they will have missed it from. But it does feel as if it's.
I reckon it's a calculated gamble. They wanted to focus on all the consumer stuff, because that's where Apple have gone. It's all consumer now. It's all about your iOS devices. It's about your Ultrabooks. It's about even the iMac. It's become very thin, but they've been struggling to get those out. Manufacturing problems, blah blah blah. That's where Apple have gone to. So,
and I think it makes sense. I really do. I personally, if I was involved in Apple, I would be struggling to see the purpose in continuing the Mac Pro line. To be honest. They're going to be expensive machine. They're expensive machines. The people buying them are expecting and requiring a different level of product and a different level of support. And it's a tricky level of support to be involved in as well, because a lot of people don't realize this, but with the cool feature as a consumer with an Apple kind of laptop, it's awesome the way you can carry your laptop or your computer into the store and they deal with it. The Genius Bar deal with that, and that's Apple is head and shoulders above that on the consumer experience. But if you were to buy a HP workstation like an XW Series HP or Dell workstation, those things come with 3 years on-site support. Yeah. So if you have a problem with the machine, you phone the number and a person turns up that day with a replacement computer. So,
but what actually happens though in real life with the Mac Pro, not because of Mac Pro, but because of the environment you're in. If you're in music, if you're in video, whatever, is actually you would the people who you buy it from, if it's a specialized music retailer, will maybe provides that level of cover. It's not up to Apple to do that. I mean, that's fine. That's understandable, because Apple's tech guys shouldn't have a really in-depth knowledge of really specialist areas, because that's not what they're really for. But the fact is that the specialized music retailers, for example, can take up and probably do take up the slack. I imagine like a company like KMR probably have that, because they're kind of big on the scene now, and it's the obvious thing, really, isn't it? It's like,
oh, of course, I'm saying I mean, it is possible for people, but I just mean the point is that the Apple, the Mac Pros were quite often viewed as the cheapest. They were the cheapest workstation class desktops, generally were what they were. But they became more expensive when you started to work out support for the equivalent level of support for them. Because at that point, you would generally find that the other kind of Windows boxes would offer support offer a better term of support, because they usually came with the 3-year support as standard, ready to go sort of stuff. So, and to be honest, I think if it's kind of the situation that IBM found themselves in, and they kind of spun off a lot of stuff and sold it out to Lenovo, and I think it's the kind of situation that Apple are probably looking at as well, in terms of, yes, they had a business unit, and the professionals kind of probably kept them afloat for a lot of years, but now they are a consumer-focused company. In reality, their primary action is probably selling things through iTunes onto iPhones and iPads and iPod Touches and stuff. At which point you can kind of see, well, the laptops are profitable and don't require an awful lot more effort, and I don't think they do really. They are profitable, and they're done. Then it makes sense to just keep supporting the laptop side of the business. But I think things like kind of niche desktop products like a Power Mac is probably thinning out the kind of people who would really want that kind of thing.
I think we're going to see a replacement. I think we will see one.
I know that you believe this, but I'm just not sure.
Well, even though maybe his first year and a half in charge hasn't been stellar, I still trust Tim Cook to not say, we're going to release a replacement for the Mac Pro and then not do it. I think if he's going to stand on the stage or do that press release or whatever,
I think Adam has died. Have you died, Adam? I think Adam has died.
Then there's a problem. I wonder if maybe it's something to do with, because think about it, right? The processors that these computers use.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point they must become so much more expensive than the current base level model that's more powerful. So that's why you kind of need the upgrade. Do you think that's why it's on such a long cycle?
I think it's on long cycle just because they're just not in demand, and they just don't sell that many of them, to be honest. I really do. You're right, they are expensive. You know what I'm saying? You can,
but the old stuff, processors will become more expensive, because it's like when now SD RAM will be really expensive because there's so few. Where can you get a good quality SD RAM? Or maybe nowhere, because it's not made anymore.
Yeah,
well, it probably is, but
yeah, I know that's true. I would, if there was a Mac Pro replacement, I personally think it's probably going to go in a different direction to what a lot of people expect. Because the thing is, one of the key elements that's missing off the Mac Pro is the Thunderbolt connection, and the Thunderbolt connection really gives the opportunity to change everything again. Because essentially you have an exposed PCI bus. So you can use your Thunderbolt connection, go to a PCI breakout bus, at which point you can start putting PCI cards or RAID arrays or anything you want into it. Like that is what you can do with these. So to be honest, I don't see, if you were to get a Mac Mini and then put a PCI kind of chassis on the side of it connected by a Thunderbolt, you could build yourself a more powerful. You could build yourself a more powerful version of a Mac Pro right now by taking that strategy if you wanted to. And I wonder, and I personally, I don't see what there is to gain by just continuing making a big heavy box like that. You know, other than just the ability to stuff it full of very powerful cores that are running very hot, which, you know, I wonder whether that's going to be the right option or not for them either. So we'll have to see what the options are of that. I personally don't think we're going to see see it particularly developed out anymore, to be honest. I think the Mac Pro is reaching the end of the line. I suspect that is going to be the reality of it. I don't think we're going to see it back, but we never know. We may well see it eventually. Who knows? Well, I think with that, I'm just going to move on. Adam has dropped off, so I'm just going to take the opportunity to finish it off. So for our plunder this week, Audio Geek Design have an article all about digital to audio converter DACs. So if you're doing stuff with computer music and you wonder how it works, how DACs work, have a look. Why not? It's a cool little read. If you read it and you think I want to know more, then computer music tutorial is obviously the big giant book to go check out and take a look at. And that give you a little bit more detail about it. But the article talks about why DACs can be different, how they can respond differently, what differentiates a good DAC from a bad DAC. So I thought it was a cool little article, so I definitely recommend it, and hence this week's plunder. So Adam Yanch has gone. Bye, Adam. I've been Scott Hewitt, and we will be back next week. But this was episode 83 of the audio podcast. Bye.